Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 230 of your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, Jamie and I return to discuss the final race of Formula 1's first triple header of 2025. We were back on the high-speed streets of the Jeddah coronation. Jamie, I think we could argue that in the end, based on Jeddah's fairly high standards so far in its time in Formula 1, it was a pretty mediocre race. First of all though, how are we doing, sir?
I'm doing well, yes. Lovely bank holiday weekend. I climbed a hill yesterday because it wouldn't be a bank holiday weekend if I didn't just drive to the Lake District and climb a hill and go in a lake, you know. And now we're here to record the podcast, so very happy. And the race, yeah, it was all right. It wasn't a Bahrain, but yeah, it also wasn't the worst race of the season so far. So you know what, we'll take it and move on.
No, I think it's safe to say it comfortably sits below Australia and Bahrain, but much higher than Japan and Shanghai did, which I guess is good. But of course, obviously, coming into the weekend, Oscar Piastri, obviously for the first repeat winner of the year last time out, clearly has proved himself to be a threat to Lando Norris for the World Championship. But again, going through free practice and everything like that, it seemed like McLaren probably had the car to beat. There were some encouraging signs from other teams as well. Red Bull looked pretty close, Mercedes looked pretty close, Ferrari on longer runs looked pretty close, but it was still, obviously going to be McLaren. We're going to be the team to beat. The only kind of major talking point, I think, from free practice, of course, was Yuki Tsunoda, his unfortunate error in free practice 2, I believe, and kind of, he did his best Verstappen tribute, didn't he? Although he hit the inside wall at the final corner, and then the outside wall.
Yes, and to be honest, I didn't follow much of practice, to be honest. But yes, I did see that after FP3, the McLarens were something like 7/10 ahead of George Russell in third, wasn't it, in FP3? So
yes, yeah.
It didn't look great from an outside perspective going into qualifying. But thankfully, they were pushing a lot more than most of the other teams were, because it really closed up coming into quali, which was good news for everyone.
This is what Mercedes said, wasn't it? They were like, we think McLaren turned their engines up earlier in the weekend than most other teams. So, it's just the way McLaren want to do things, because we do pretty reliably see them comfortably quicker than everybody else in free practice, and then kind of all those gaps close back up as we move into qualifying and into the race. And as we moved into Q1, though, Jamie, history would be made by our Lord and Saviour, Lance Stroll, because he was out in Q1 alongside Jack Doohan, Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon and Gabriele Bortoleto, and Stroll claims the record for the most ever Q1 exits since the format was introduced back in 2006. What are our feelings on that?
It doesn't surprise me. Was it 71? Am I making that
75.
Number up? 75, okay. And I saw a stat in that time, in those 75... Sorry, no, just as Stroll's teammates in the time he's been in Formula 1 have got collectively 40.
48.
And I think... Sorry?
48 was the number I saw.
48, and I believe 19 of them was Sergei Sirotkin in 2018.
I don't think it was 19, but it was certainly quite high.
Quite high, yeah. Well, that Williams was shocking, to be fair. And Sirotkin also not exactly a Formula 1 caliber driver.
He's definitely like one of those drivers that everybody forgets had an entire year in Formula 1.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Lance Stroll put it himself very well, that if you put in the McLarens in a Sauber, then they'll have the most Q1 exits. Spoken by a man who has never driven a Sauber.
Yeah, spoken by a man that's never driven a Sauber and has ended up going out in Q1 at just over a 33% higher rate than than all of his teammates combined.
Yes.
I mean, let's be fair, reliably, like we said, that 2017 Williams was okay still.
It was good. They
for the
finished
most
fifth
part.
in the constructors.
But they still, they were fit that year, weren't they? 2018, the Williams kind of
terrible.
fell off
throughout
the race, but it was all right throughout the first 6 or 7 races, and obviously that was when Sirotkin was basically trying to learn.
They scored like
it wasn't
6
that bad early
points.
on. I thought it was all right early on. It was just the fact
they
Stroll
were
was
comfortably
terrible
the
and
worst
Sirotkin was learning.
in 2018.
Fair enough.
19, he moved to Racing Point, and then he was fine. He's had the slowest car for 1 year.
1 year of his Formula 1 career.
Of his,
that
9 years in Formula 1 now?
Yeah. That Racing Point was pretty much always been at least a Q2 car, if not usually Q3 capable. during his time in Formula 1. Oh, Aston Martin at the start of 22, I guess, as well, were terrible. But ultimately, I mean, we rant about this every other week or so. You know, the same thing can only be said so many times. Lance Stroll is just not good enough to be a Formula 1 driver.
He's one of those drivers you might get 2 or 3 seasons if your dad didn't own the team. But
exactly.
There we go.
Exactly. there's not a chance if... Well, let's be fair. There's not a chance he would have made it to Formula 1 because he just doesn't adapt quick enough. You watch Lance Stroll behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car and it just doesn't look natural most of the time. He's kind of got none of that instinct that kind of needs to be there.
He's like the opposite of Jenson Button, who used to be like the smoothest guy ever.
Yeah, exactly. So Lance Stroll, a record in the Formula 1 history books for him. That might take some beating, because I believe it was previously held by Kevin Magnussen.
It was.
Which, to be fair to Kevin, he did generally have a lot more worse cars than Stroll.
Yeah,
but they
although
each
saying
did
that,
have a pole.
Magnussen probably only had the worst car once as well, I would say, in 2020.
2020, I would argue
the
through
Renault was
phases of 22, that car was pretty bad. The Renault was pretty bad. 2019, that car was pretty bad as well.
Although in quali they were amazing, weren't they, in 2019, and then just always fell off in the race.
They were really on. I'm still adamant that 2019 car was probably, and the 2020 car was probably no better than the Williams.
That's the car we drove in league racing and crashed out many times. The 2019 Haas. Remember that?
Did we? Oh yeah, vaguely. Yeah, towards the end of the season. I always forget we were still league racing by then. Very, very odd time. But yeah, Magnussen, I would argue that was probably a fairer record for him to claim than Lance Stroll. I would argue, on average, Magnussen had a worse average of cars than Stroll's had. Because I don't know how many times Magnussen's teammate would have also been out in Q1 during that time. Anyway, back to qualifying though, Jamie. Yeah, in the end, Albon, Lawson, Alonso, Hadjar, Behrman all out in Q2. So we had exactly the same 10 cars for Q3. And we've spoke about it before. It happened again, didn't it? Lando Norris even. I'm going to start calling him Lance Norris from now on because it sums him up. He bottled it in a big way.
Completely. And this is not good news at all because your teammates just won, 2 out of the first 4 races. You're going into round 5. Norris did look the stronger McLaren driver up to this point.
Not by a lot. I backed Oscar all weekend.
Not by a lot.
He's always been very good
Norris,
here.
I feel like it's one of those, it's almost like a 2024 style race where Norris just looks like he's got an extra 10th and a half maybe. And it looked like it was his pole to lose really going into Q3. And then he's just completely stacked it, put it in the wall on his first run in Q3. Like, at the very least, you've got to get your first lap in, and then you're going for it on the second lap, and maybe you crash then, and it's a red flag, and it doesn't matter. But crashing on the first lap before you even set a banker in Q3, not on at all. And it really will, I think, given that Piastri was the only McLaren left, likely to get pole at that point. Obviously, didn't work out that way, but you're thinking, if this goes on, then Piastri will begin to look like the favourite, won't he? Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, obviously, especially for Oscar as well, like we said, that McLaren probably had still a bit of an edge over every other car this weekend. You know, you're kind of there for Oscar as well, suddenly going, well, even if I end up qualifying P3, you know, I've still got a good chance of moving my way through the order as well, so you then take less risk throughout the rest of the session. Plus, hopefully I'm not going to jinx him by saying this, Oscar Piastri is just someone that, has he ever really crashed a Formula 1 car that I can remember?
On his own, yeah, I'm not sure. I think Miami, he had an incident last year with one of the Ferraris, didn't he? But that wasn't him just crashing on his own. That was with another driver.
No. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't remember him stacking it like that. But then, to be fair to Norris, has he done it much?
Oscar Piastri, Norris has done it a few times, I think. It's kind of more been qualifying for him. Like Spa 2021, things like that.
Oh, yeah. That was slight circumstantial with how wet and awful Eau Rouge was that day.
So, Oscar Piastri DNF'd Bahrain 2023.
That was
I feel like that was mechanical, Belgium 2023.
Don't remember what happened there. But was I there? No, I wasn't. That was the year before.
Yeah, and then COTA 2023.
Don't remember that either.
Those are the only 3 DNFs he's ever had in the sport.
Wow.
Yep.
I feel maybe COTA was a crash, but again, I think it was a crash with someone else.
Yeah, He's just again, it's kind of that thing, especially around a track like Qatar. Jeddah even. It's a circuit that you have to just build up and ramp up, and Lando. I mean, it was obviously it was completely his own error. He got a little bit unlucky with kind of the way he hit that curb because obviously it just threw the car up, and as soon as it was gone, there was no chance of saving it.
But
anyway.
The curb's the same for everyone.
Exactly. You've got to, especially when you're in that car, you've got to get the bank lap on the board. Like you said, you can bottle it on the final run, trying to chase the extra tenths, but otherwise you've just got to get a time on the board. But like you said, obviously that basically meant exactly. It would mean though that Oscar was fastest because he was the only one that got a run in on the first time round. Verstappen would then get a slipstream off Tsunoda, which would actually prove critical, because apparently he gained 900ths of a second into turn 1, and then would beat out Oscar by 1/100th by the end of the lap. 0.010 seconds between them after almost 7 kilometres is pretty insane.
It is insane.
But Verstappen, again, just able to get the better of Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, and also, shout out to Jeddah. Qualifying there is so good to watch. Those cars.
I hate it, man. It just gives me anxiety, honestly.
It's just like, it's exhilarating, isn't it? It's just like a fast Monaco. It's so good. I really, really enjoyed Q3 with the top three, especially Verstappen, Piastri, and Russell, all just like pushing each other as far as they possibly can, right up against the walls everywhere. Oh, it was so good to watch. It's such a spectacle, this track, when they're all pushing in Q3, apart from Norris, who was already out. But
there are two things that annoy me about the Jeddah circuit. One, it's not a street circuit. No. Like, it was purpose built. I don't think any of it is actually used as streets ever. And two, I hate the fact they're going about how it has 27 corners.
No,
when about half of them aren't corners.
It's got 10 or 11 probably meaningful corners. The
I'd
whole
say
middle
it's probably
sector
14
is just
or
straight,
15,
basically.
I think. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. And that just annoys me with it. But apart from that, like I said, I find it anxiety-inducing watching qualifying, because you just know as soon as someone does anything, it's just going to be a ridiculously big accident. But it is a good test for the drivers, obviously trying to put them right to the limit. I would still prefer it being at the end of the season, when the drivers are at their most confident with the cars.
Maybe, and the
because then I kind of feel like high stakes. Exactly. Hopefully, you kind of think then it's more high stakes, because I think Losail will be a great circuit early on in the year.
I don't think Losail would ever be a good circuit, if you ask me.
I think Losail's great fun, fantastic track.
Well, it's a good track, but it's not good for F1, is it? It's a bike track.
It is mainly a MotoGP circuit. But yeah, Verstappen, like we said, though, he would take pole ahead of Piastri. George Russell in third ahead of Charles Leclerc. Antonelli, Sainz, Hamilton just seemed slow all weekend.
Behind a Williams, by the way.
Behind a Williams, yep. Sonoda in P8 ahead of Gasly, and Lando Norris would round out your top 10. And as we move into Sunday then, Jamie, most drivers, I think it was looking like it was just going to be a simple one-stop, wasn't it, between the mediums and the hard compound tyres. So most drivers opted for the mediums. Lando Norris, I believe, was the only car inside the top 10 on hards. And then there was controversy immediately. Or there wasn't controversy, but some people like to claim there was.
It was a talking point, wasn't it, straight away? I think, but Piastri got a better start than Max. Got down
ahead of him
turn 1.
into turn 1.
Yes. Yeah. And at that point, Verstappen played his favourite trick of let the brakes off, get alongside on the apex,
or past
the
apex corner. In this case.
Yeah. Jumped the chicane and then claimed that he was pushed off. It was very Austria last year with Norris, wasn't it?
Yep.
Or many other times when this has happened. And to be fair to Max, I see why he did it, but I don't think he's got much of a case here, to be honest.
Hey, can we just hear that again from our resident Max Verstappen fan? Because I've seen so many of them crying about this online.
It's a bit mad, isn't it? I can see he's trying to game the rules. I think Martin Brundle put it really well on Sky. Max knows the rules inside out. He knows that if you're alongside at the apex, I think it's the new, like the way they've done it now is like if your front tyre is alongside the wing mirror of the car ahead, then you deserve space.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It is ridiculous. So Max knows that, and he's like, well, the only way I can get alongside his wing mirror is by taking far too much speed in, and then he would have never made the corner anyway. And
exactly.
You see people say, well, Piastri didn't leave any space. Well, it's like, because he's got the high ground, he's ahead of the corner. Yeah, I see exactly what Max was trying to do. I do. And he was never going to be able to keep that place. As dumb as the stewards can be, that was a stone wall. There's no way he wasn't going to have to give that place back. What I think surprised me was they didn't give Max the option of giving the place back under the safety car.
I think they tried to avoid giving you the option to do it under safety car because...
It's happened before. They've
2021. They have sometimes swapped positions back, but I think they... to be honest, I think there was an element of they were worried he'd turn it into a farce like he did with the 2021 race here, to be completely honest. I think he was just...
And he'd done that. When he was trying to let him through.
Well, no, when he brake-checked Hamilton. But I genuinely think, if he'd been made to give Oscar the place back under safety car, he would, no matter how far back, he would have just gone for it back into turn one again, like he did on Lewis, and just threw himself off the circuit again. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because you've got all these people, like Christian Horner coming out with pictures after the race, and you're just there going, like, a still image does not provide context with the fact that you remove that McLaren car, and Max in exactly the same position he's in, with the steering and the speed. He's not making that corner anyway. It's so dumb, and it annoys me so much.
But then, to be fair to the stewards, they got it pretty bang on, didn't they? I get...
They absolutely got the call right for once, and you still got people complaining about it.
But then the complainants, they're going to complain whatever, aren't they? Haters are going to hate.
Exactly.
I don't care. But the stewards did their job. I think Max Verstappen did the best he could in the situation, having...
No, he could have backed out and just been there ready on the restart.
No, but his job is to win races. That's, in that moment, the best thing for him to do was to try and gain the system and keep the lead.
What's one of the most famous quotes in Formula 1, Jamie?
What, if you no longer go for a gap that exists?
No.
That's a terrible quote anyway. What is it?
It is a terrible quote. Formula 1 or racing in general, it's never won at turn one. It can be lost at turn one. And that was exactly what happened here.
True. I do wonder...
He lost that race at turn one.
I think I think Piastri had slightly too much pace. Anyway.
I think definitely Oscar Piastri did an Alain Prost. He did the bare minimum he needed to win that race. Yeah. Which are kind of there going, why would he risk it?
People are saying Max should have just given a position and raced from second. I don't think... Once Max messed up his start, I don't think there was a chance he was winning that race. I think what he could have done was got a better start and led properly, and then he might have had a chance.
Well, he bottled the start immediately, didn't he? And then bottled the first chicane, which you're kind of there going, he threw that away himself. I love the fact, Oscar was just there going, I did, and to be fair, Oscar did exactly the right thing in that scenario. And
interestingly, he did what Max would have done.
Exactly. Like, everybody's going, like, it's not fair. Verstappen got squeezed out. You go, Max, if he'd been in the other car in that situation, would have done exactly the same thing and would have complained had someone else done that to him.
In fact, Max on the inside might have just cut the corner as well, to be honest.
He probably would have.
But I think in the cool-down room, which was very cold for a change, they weren't really joking at all, were they, at the end of the race?
Because Max knew
Max was there.
He knew he'd cocked up.
Slightly, a little bit proud of Oscar for going toe-to-toe with him.
I think he's always said Oscar's a very good driver. Yeah, Norris would have. And I think for Max as well, there's an element of, it's great having a lapdog in Lando Norris a lot of the time. But also, at the end of the day, he is still a racer. And I think, of course, for Max as well, there's probably an intriguing element of you still don't quite know how Oscar's gonna behave and react.
No.
And there might be an element of, I don't know how to get under this guy's skin yet. Or there might be an element of, I don't think I can get under his skin. I think it's really hard. And I'm looking forward to that fight.
He's a chill Kimi Räikkönen, isn't he? Nothing phases him. But he's also super fierce behind the wheel. It's like, what do you do to beat him?
But the thing is as well, I do genuinely think, had Oscar been side by side with someone else into that corner, he would have done it differently. But he was kind of there going, I know exactly what Max would do to me, so I've got to do it to him. There is an element with Max just completely screwed over wheel-to-wheel. Well, wheel-to-wheel racing doesn't exist in Formula 1 anymore. And that is mainly thanks to Max Verstappen. So there is an element of, you've got to kind of, reap what you sow.
In a way, yeah.
And I think in this situation, he kind of could understand and accept that. But there's a lot of times as well where they're going, he would complain about something that he would quite happily do far more aggressively.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, because
And
Oscar had the inside line,
was,
he was just going for it. There was no way he was coming out second in that corner, was there?
Oscar had the inside line and was ahead going in. Like, this is what, like, people are just, like, posting screenshots like Mexico last year and stuff of, like, Max is alongside halfway through the corner. You're going, yeah, but that's irrelevant when he's come from a car's length back.
And
like,
also,
a still image does not provide the context you need.
Yeah, it doesn't. And secondly, when Max was defending from Norris was the one trying to overtake around the outside. That is very different from a car.
But he was already ahead into the corner, wasn't he, originally?
That's strange. It is very strange. But Max got a 5-second penalty anyway. That's the one thing that slightly aggrieves me, is that we didn't get a Michael Massey deal or no deal, where they're like, well, you can have a 5-second penalty, or you can give the place back.
I was surprised, to be honest, that they didn't give him the option, but like I said, I think that was they were worried he'd turn the race into a farce. So they kind of are like, we'll just give him a penalty, it's dealt with then. Because, let's be fair, from that moment on, or once the penalty was announced, we all knew exactly Oscar was just going to sit behind him, pit stops come, Max has to take the penalty then, and he comes out in front and wins. Simple as.
Although,
and
to
of
be
course,
fair,
spoiler alert, that's what happened.
Max put a job in on the first stint, didn't he? Especially towards the end. That gap was up to like 3.5 seconds before they stopped.
It was up to 3, yeah. But again, I think Oscar was just there going, you know, I think genuinely, had Oscar say for example, in some bizarre world, Oscar Piastri got a 10 or 15 second penalty on lap 1 that he was going to serve after the Grand Prix. If he'd got ahead of Max through the pit stops anyway, I think he could have pulled out that gap. Like Lando said after the race, that he was like, Red Bull had the fastest car today, and Oscar was like, no, they didn't.
Yeah, Lando
I think
black.
Yeah. Like I said, Oscar did the bare minimum he needed to win that race. Like, it's just, because why would you want to do any more around a circuit like Jeddah?
Well, exactly.
Just win it, and it doesn't matter, kind of thing. There would be more Red Bull chaos, though, wouldn't there, early on? Because turn 4, I would argue one of the worst corners in Formula 1. Gasly and Tsunoda came together. When I say worst corners in Formula 1, it's just a ball ache to get right, as Lando Norris found out.
And trying to do it side by side with someone else is even harder. So it's not a surprise, really, that Gasly pulled off a pretty good move on Tsunoda around the outside of turn 4. And Tsunoda just took too much speed in, understeered, clipped his left rear, and the rest is history. So that was a shame for both of them, because they were both out, and it caused a safety car straight away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was surprised that Tsunoda's car was out, because it was a very, very small knock he had on the wall, but of course at any angle other than 90 degrees, it was always going to bend the components and things like that. So definitely a shame for Tsunoda, because he had looked... Admittedly, Q3 was a bit of a write-off in the end for him, but he had looked closer to Max throughout a lot of the weekend. I mean, it was the first time both Red Bulls made it into Q3, I think, since Baku last year.
No,
or something
since
wild.
last race, wasn't it?
Tsunoda... Oh, yeah, sorry.
You said it was the same top 10 in Q3, so it must have been... Maybe it was back-to-back
back-to-back top 10s, I can't remember.
But regardless, it was Tsunoda's fault. But he was.
I think it was a racing incident, to be fair, because the problem is as well, of course, with that corner is it's wider on entry than exit, and everybody then was so scared of that curb that effectively it made it even more narrow.
Yeah. But it was a shame for Gasly, because he did a good job to get to Q3. And, that left them both out of the race. But a few drivers chose to pit off their mediums onto hard tyres on lap 1, trying to just go to the end of the race, basically. Jack Doohan was the leader of that pack. I think it was Ocon, Bortoletto. I don't think Stroll did. You've got Stroll in those. I don't think he did.
Because he still ended up behind them, did he? Because he was in that group after the safety car.
I think him and Hulk were like the back of the pack, because they both started on hards. So
no, Stroll was definitely behind Doohan on the restart.
Well, maybe he did then. I don't know.
Maybe he went mediums to do double medium, because I think he started on hards, didn't he?
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
He did,
but
potentially. Restart. Max nailed. Drove off into the no chance Piastri was near him into turn 1, because he properly got the restart sorted.
Well, he backed everyone up beyond ridiculously, because he was already unhappy about the penalty.
What are you going to do? That's how you restart in Formula 1 sometimes.
Yeah, but you're not meant to brake aggressively though, Jamie.
He was going around the corner, it's fine. A hairpin. But the race kind of settled down quite quickly. Lando Norris made a mess of an overtake on Lewis Hamilton.
Oh,
twice.
So funny. It took him 3 attempts to get past Lewis because Lewis was just letting by, have the DRS go back past him.
There was one.
It was about the only good thing
dangerous,
Lewis did all weekend. Was there? No, because again, I think genuinely watching that, and I could be wrong without looking at the data, but that one almost looked like Lando was like outbraked himself.
Well, Lando was breaking at his normal point. Lewis broke.
But that's my point. I don't think he
early.
was. I don't know for sure. You could well be right. And say if you are, then fair enough. Yeah, that was probably a little bit dodgy by Lewis. But say because we kind of quickly got the onboard, didn't we? And then never really saw it again. And it looked to me like Lewis broke and Lando just wasn't expecting it. Whether that was early or not, like I said, I don't know for sure. But either way, it was funny to watch Lewis.
He was like, I'm going to make Lando overtake me into turn 27.
Fernando Alonso would do it as well, to be fair.
Yeah, he would. And so would Verstappen. But in 2021, you all cried about it. Although that was 500
meters early. Yeah, I was saying it was 500 meters early. But yeah, that was definitely for Lewis. And as a Lewis fan, my highlight of the night was just watching
Not a lot else going on, was there?
Mug Lando Norris. I mean, he was so bad. I love the guy, but like this weekend, on a track that is all confidence based, I think he averaged 0.8 a lap slower than Leclerc all weekend.
Yeah, and Leclerc is quite good at Jeddah, but even so.
Well, Leclerc is just a street circuit wizard, isn't he? Like, I would argue Leclerc might have probably been, in terms of the drivers up and down the grid, probably got the most out of his car of anybody.
Yeah, he was class, yeah. And we'll get on to that later. But...
We certainly will. Like we said, by the time the pit stop window came out, lap 20 Oscar pit, even with a 3.4 second stop, by the time Max came in a couple of laps later, Oscar was way out ahead. And basically then, like we said, I don't think he was ever planning on trying to pull away unless he needed to. I think if he needed to, he could have. But that was it at the front of the order, wasn't it, between those two? Gabriele Bortoletto did try to wipe out his manager, so I'm not sure how that'll go down in post-race
that was
meetings.
Weird, wasn't it? He was getting passed by somebody else. Was it Doohan? I can't remember who it was now.
I believe it was Vicar, wasn't it? I think it was Lawson.
Potentially. Could have been Lawson, yeah. But he got overtaken and then basically tried to like shuffle to the right-hand side of the track into turn 1. And yeah, just had a lack of awareness to know if Alonso was there. Very nearly had a very high-speed crash with his own manager. And the man whose plane he rides to get away from the races. So I wonder if that still happened.
Yeah, he got to the runway and Alonso was like, "Yeah, get off, mate.
Yeah, your ticket's rescinded. Apologies.
You can walk home." No, the thing is with something like that is I genuinely see between those two, like Alonso kind of going, "Yeah, it happens, mate. Just please don't do it again," because I did almost a lot of poo shot out. But like we said, there was no malicious intent from Bortoletto or anything.
Oh, not at all.
And you're kind of there going, if Lance Stroll had done it, absolutely throw the book at him. But this is also a kid in just his 5th Grand Prix.
We love some double standards.
But it is fair though as a rookie. You're still early on, and especially because that Sauber apparently can't go in a straight line. You kind of there go, you give him a little bit of extra slack.
Slightly, yeah. It's a rookie thing to do, and he is a rookie, so that's okay.
So it's allowed. Exactly. Norris, of course, on his hard tyres, he'd box on lap 34. How on earth he bottled both pit entry and pit exit and then didn't get a penalty, I was quite confused by.
That was quite surprising.
Because he managed to cut the entry and the exit, and they let him get away with both.
Yeah, especially the entry, because he absolutely went across the white lines on entry. The exit was slightly less clear, but they did investigate the exit and got away with it. And yeah, I don't think it would have mattered in the end. I can't remember the gaps exactly, but he came out behind.
Russell fell apart, yeah.
He came out behind Hamilton, Antonelli, and Russell, and then overtook all of them.
Yeah.
And George Russell, after the stops, he was chilling in 3rd. I was like, oh, my prediction's going great here.
I was looking at it going, your prediction's going to be eggy, yeah.
Yeah. And then George Russell's pace in the second stint just went. He couldn't manage the tyres. And actually, he wasn't far ahead of Antonelli in the end, which, to say Antonelli's in his 5th race at a track like Jeddah, yeah, Russell didn't do amazing on that second stint. Or maybe the car just wasn't there, but regardless.
No, I think there was an element of the car wasn't there, and I think they'd probably kind of geared it a bit more towards qualifying, and then were kind of saved by that early safety car that probably allowed them to take the first set of tyres as far as everybody else. Because it basically was just towards the end of both stints, wasn't it? The Mercedes just kind of fell away relative to a lot of the other cars around it. That's what obviously allowed Leclerc on lap 38 I mean, he just breezed past Russell and never looked back, did he?
Well,
and it was only at the end of the race.
The mediums, 38 laps. Crazy.
It was staggering. Yeah, really, really good job by Leclerc. Like I said, easily his best weekend of the year so far.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Richard, for sure. And
he won this weekend, I think. No, he got
did.
a penalty, didn't he?
He won feature, though. He should have won both.
Oh, he did win the feature, yeah. He shouldn't have won both.
Well, the penalty was deserved, I guess.
He shouldn't be in Formula 2 anymore.
Exactly. He's about 27 years old, isn't he?
There needs to be a 3-season limit in F2.
Regardless. Yeah, Leclerc did very well. Got his first podium of the year. Breezed past George Russell and then was able to hold off Lando Norris when he got in the back of him at the end.
Yeah, fantastic effort. Absolutely fantastic by Charles Leclerc. Lando recovered P4. So it meant our podium was Piastri, Verstappen, Leclerc, with Norris, Russell, Antonelli, Hamilton, Sainz, Albon, and Hadjar in your top 10.
Shout
and
out to the two
double
Williams
points
drivers.
finish. Yeah, I love this, because have you seen the stat coming out that obviously every new team Sainz joins, they always move up the order in this first season. Except for if you removed Albon's points, Sainz would be last.
Yeah.
Or Williams would be last. So Sainz has done pretty much nothing so far.
Same with Renault in 2018, really. When he joined them and then they suddenly raced, but that was all down to Hulkenberg.
Oh, was it? What were the standings that year again?
Hulk was...
I know Hulkenberg outscored him, but I don't think it was by...
It was by
a ridiculous margin, was it? Hulkenberg had 69 points, funny number. Perez had 62, so a fair amount is not much. And Sainz had 53.
There you go.
Magnussen, 9th in the Haas. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
although that car was rapid, wasn't it? Yeah.
Because it
Haas
was
probably
Ferrari
should have finished
V-spec,
fourth.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. But the two Williams drivers, I really enjoyed the little team radio where they asked Sainz to hold Albon and DRS to defend from Hadjar, who was on fresh tyres. And Sainz was like, oh yeah, I know this. This is my thing.
Yeah, I've got experience with this one, guys, don't worry.
Sainz invented that trick in Singapore in 2023.
Exactly.
And now he's here being told to do it by his team. Love that for him.
No, I mean, like we said though, for Jeddah's standard, again, it's just a quintessential ground effect era race, hasn't it? Of just moves are made in DRS zones, which at Jeddah is kind of what you would expect anyway. But it was a little bit boring, wasn't it? Slightly,
although I don't blame the racetrack for that, because if turn one went normally,
it's a product of the cars at the moment.
Yeah, and if the turn one incident kind of took the sting out of the race, because like we said, as soon as Verstappen got that penalty, we knew how the race was going to go.
Yeah.
And if they did just do a swap and they were like Piastri led on the restart, but Verstappen was there without a penalty, I think the race could have been a lot better.
Could have been, but on the other hand, I think Oscar could have just walked away if he needed to.
Potentially, yeah. But it is what it is. It wasn't a terrible race. And it wasn't at 6 a.m, so I can forgive it.
Yeah, there was an element of that, wasn't there? I mean, Miami next is 9 p.m, I think. Because it's after IndyCar, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
But we have got a break. I think it's a well-earned break week, to be honest.
Yes.
I think if we had another race this weekend, I'd be like, oh, God. But yeah, we're
Can we
all right.
stop? Can we have a break, please?
Exactly.
Yes. But also, fun stat for you, this is McLaren's 50th circuit where they've won a Grand Prix.
Interesting.
Which is a nice segue into my quiz.
Oh, no.
It's not named the 50 circuits, because that would take
I was going to say.
But it is to do with constructors, because we don't do much to do with constructors, I don't think.
No, not normally.
So, very simply, I don't think we've done this before. Over the course of Formula One's long and illustrious history, there are 15 chassis manufacturers, which just means teams, who have won a Formula One Constructors' Championship. You have a minute, which started in 1959.
A minute for 15?
Okay, a minute and a half to name all 15. I mean, you'll reel off most of them and then just spend your time
Hopefully,
thinking.
sir.
Let's
Hopefully,
go.
sir. Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Braun GP, McLaren, Benetton, Williams,
Doing well. They're all right so far.
Lotus.
Yes.
God, this is worrying already.
You've got all the big ones.
Alfa Romeo, they were gone before.
That was pre-constructors.
Yeah, pre-constructors. Trying trying to think other like rogue championship winners.
There's a few that have got 2, and then a bunch have got 1.
Yeah, a bunch of ones.
45 seconds remaining, half your time.
Oh man, I could have just rattled off the 8 I've got, couldn't I? I'm trying to think like 6s and stuff. Brabham.
Yes. 30 seconds.
Tyrrell.
Yes. 20 seconds.
Mantra.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like loads of small British.
10 seconds.
Cooper Climax.
Cooper.
Whatever they're called.
Yeah. 5 seconds. Doing very well.
Yeah, I think it's about 10, isn't
up.
it? I should have looked behind me because I've got like.
Oh, you've got them all on the wall.
I've got a poster of them, or all the drivers' champions, which would have been most of them. Can you give me the first letter? Because I think I've got all of like the ones back to the 80s, haven't I?
You missed one.
Did I miss one? Yeah. I'm trying to think because I felt like I did. It's going to be really annoyingly obvious.
There's only 3 left, so you got the other 12.
Oh, I got 12. Okay.
One of them is an obvious one that you really should have got.
Probably. I knew there was one.
The driver who won them these championships is still on the grid.
Is he? I said Renault, didn't I?
No.
Oh, I thought I did. Oh man, I thought because I genuinely was going to say it again when I said Mantra, but I was like, no, I've said Renault already.
No, you missed Renault.
That was bad.
It's Matra, not Mantra, but close enough.
Oh, potato.
Yeah, you said that. The other 2, one beginning with V, the first ever construction.
Oh, Van Wall, yeah, of course, because that's what Climax again, Cooper Climax.
And then the other one is a 3-letter initial. I think Jackie Stewart.
BRM.
Yeah. There you go.
So
did well though.
If you gave me the time, I could.
I'm pleased with how you did on that.
I'll take that, honestly. Like I said, I thought I'd already said Renault, to be honest, so that was
also
quite
a bit mad that in 60 odd years no more than that, like
70,
68
or 65
years of constructors world championships. There's only been 15 different winners.
Yeah, I mean, there's been more drivers champions for different teams, hasn't there? Though in that time,
but teams last longer than drivers do.
But my point is, it's normally easier for like an upset driver rather than an upset team.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because a team obviously requires 2 drivers to do pretty well.
Yeah.
Which is normally, again, associated with the big money, because a lot of teams can afford 1 driver but not 2, in that sense.
Exactly.
I suppose, 15 from 68 years is a pretty low batting average, but there it is. Jamie, who was your driver of the day? Then I think there's a few to shout out here, isn't there?
There is. I will be boring and say Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc, I think, is definitely one that deserves a shout. Oscar Piastri as well deserves a shout. Sainz, I think, deserves a shout as well. Was that his first points of the year?
No, you've said that so many times. That's his 3rd points.
Is it? Is he scored 10th? Oh yeah, he scored 10th in Japan, didn't he?
He got China and he got, I think, Bahrain.
China though. He got someone else got got disqualified.
3
That's how he
people got
scored there. So I always
disqualified.
forget. Yeah, I always forget that one. We completely forgot to mention as well the FIA are biased, Jamie.
Sorry, 2nd points of the year. Just to correct myself.
Yeah.
How do you FA biased?
How on earth did Liam Lawson get a 10-second time penalty?
Oh, true. I have seen the reason for this.
He's the most but they said it's because it wasn't lap 1. You're like, the move was already done.
Yes, it was the same move both times. So Liam Lawson effectively pulled a Verstappen, overtaking.
Except for he was like 10 car lengths ahead by the corner.
But Lawson deservedly got a penalty because he did leave the track and get an advantage. But for whatever reason, he got
lost time.
Sorry?
He lost time though. I think claiming an advantage is probably a little bit unfair there.
Well,
it's like saying, it basically in my head that looked like because he was already so far ahead. Like the position was no longer up for grabs, was it really? You kind of think that's like someone running wide and making a mistake. But if someone ran wide and made a mistake by themselves, will they get a 10-second time penalty?
No, but the move was there. Like, was it Bortoletto who was passing? He was still on the inside line. Like, he overtook the car by going off the track, arguably, and that's what the FA saw anyway.
I think to give him twice the penalty Verstappen got because it wasn't lap 1.
The same penalty Verstappen got. So give Verstappen 10 or give Lawson 5. But they were lenient.
I'd invert them.
Verstappen's was on lap 1. What, you think Verstappen should get 10?
Verstappen should have got 10, Lawson should have got 5. For the severity of the cut, and like we said, Lawson gained no advantage from that. He lost so much time by trying not to cut it.
True.
How on earth that was a 10-second penalty was beyond belief.
Yeah, and it was unlucky because Lawson actually did quite a good race. Got screwed over a bit by the penalty. But yeah, he out-qualified Hadjar by 0.2, and then just lost ground at the start, I think, to Hadjar, and then Hadjar obviously took that point away.
Yeah, exactly. Say Hadjar again, I think, is another one that probably deserves a shout-out for driver of the day, but I think I'll go with you. I'll say Charles Leclerc, driver of the day. They're in P3. Very, very good race by him. Have you been keeping tabs on who we've given driver of the day to so far
I
this
haven't,
year?
but I'll go back and sort
Oh, Jamie. Race rating?
It was alright, wasn't it?
I'm going to give it a 5. It was, like we said, not as bad as the first couple, but not as good as...
I'll go 5.5.
Okay.
There was qualifying alone made it a half extra than you.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Predictions recap.
I think you were right.
I had a Jamie-style weekend. Finally. I'm happy.
You had an okay weekend.
I outscored you, I think, for the first time this year.
You did. You said...
What were the scores coming in?
Oh, yes. It was 14 to me and 7 to you. Oh. So that's pretty brutal. You said Oscar Piastri would get pole position. Missed out by 10,000.
100th. Yep, 100th.
100th, exactly. You said Oscar Piastri would win the race. Correct.
2 points. Thank you very much.
Said Lando
I believed in Oscar all weekend. Yeah, bottled that one.
Bottled it, like he did. And you said Charles Leclerc would get P3 for some reason, and he did.
Yeah, because I saw the vision. I saw the Ferrari
Didn't back your own driver, did you?
Oh, well, would you blame me for the weekend he had? I couldn't back Lewis here. Terrible, man.
Correct. So 4 points for you. Takes you up to 11 for the season. I said Lando Norris would get pole. Obviously not.
Bottled that badly.
I said Lando Norris would win the race.
Oh.
Correct. I said Max Verstappen would get P2. Correct. 2 points.
Oh.
And I said George Russell P3, which, if he could look after his tyres, I was looking pretty good at one stage.
I thought you were going to egg it again.
But sadly
not. It was genuinely what I was thinking when I was watching the Leclerc-Russell battle. I was like, this is just going to decide who gets points this weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, because there wasn't much else to think about. So that takes you up to 11, and me up to 16. So it's 5 points. Well done.
I mean, to average 3 and 2 points a weekend when there's been 8 or 10 available is pretty terrible. But
is that
that's pretty. I think that's about bang average for what we normally manage.
Is that really only 16 in 5 races?
5 races.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Shocking. Jamie, have we got anything else to add though? I think we've rattled through everything we needed to. I think pretty quickly.
I think we've done well. Miami next in 2 weeks' time.
Miami next. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts and feelings on the Verstappen penalty, because I can't wait to see whether our viewers know wheel better than some people I seem to see online. Thank you all so much for watching. Get yourselves subscribed, help us reach 1,000 subs. And yeah, Jamie and I will be back at some point next week to preview the Miami Grand Prix. I'm sure between us recording and when this video goes live, some huge news will be announced. It's probably going to be Verstappen's announced himself to LP next year, because apparently, according to Ralf Schumacher, that's on the cards. Wild, absolutely wild. I want whatever Ralf Schumacher's smoking. Thank you all, and goodbye.